My name is Chris Latta. I'm being Chief Information Officer of Colin Biggers and Paisley, which was a one city, 120 person firm when I joined. It's now more than 400 people, and we're on the Eastern Seaboard. Prior to that, I wrote legal practice management software. I wrote the Affinity practice management software product. And Lana suggested today we might talk about blockchain and the future of smart contracts and things like that.
Slowly.
Okay, so we don't really have to worry too much about the technology behind blockchain. We don't have to try to understand that. It's very complex. It's based on cryptography. The block is a set of transactions, and the chain is linking back to previous transactions so that we have verification of what the transactions are, and we can prove the history of the transactions going back. So, and it's also a distributed system. We're not talking to a centralized server here. Everybody has a copy of the ledger, if you like, the transaction history, and everybody agrees, and it's rock solid like that. So, what does that mean for us? If you think about law firms and commercial contracts, what are we trying to do with a commercial contract? We're generally trying to prove identity of the participants involved. We're trying to prove ownership of assets, transfer of value, the rights and obligations of the people under that contract, what happens to compliance if something goes wrong, if someone doesn't fulfill their obligations. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to establish a trust mechanism. So if we have something like blockchain, identity is built into the system. We have trust built into the system because we know, we can look at the ledger and we can see your history of transactions. You know, if I'm transacting with Gary, I can see that Gary does have this value in the system. He has the ability to transact with me. I can prove identity. In fact, I don't even need to know it's Gary. I can just have a transaction with that identity token, if you like, and have pure trust in that without needing to know identity, pure identity. So you can have privacy built into the system as well. You can also build smart contracts, executable items within this contract itself. So I can say, if this happens, then that happens, and it happens automatically in a programmatic way. So what does this mean for us as law firms? Well, we've provided a lot of value into this lack of trust system that we've got at the moment. The two parties transacting don't know that they can trust each other. They think they can trust each other, but they don't know they can trust each other. So they get our law firms involved, and we write big contracts, and we write them in ambiguous natural language, English, and then we fight about that ambiguous natural language, and then we go to court and we fight again about it in litigation sometimes when it all goes wrong, because we don't necessarily have trust, we don't have compliance, and we can't enforce obligations. So when you move this to a blockchain system, then all that goes out the window. We have identity, we have pure trust, we can trust the transactions, and we have a protocol for disseminating that information among the parties that doesn't rely on a centralized authority. So a lot of what we do as a law firm changes, a lot of our value to the chain changes. So, but if you think about what we do as in the process of law, we take information inputs, you know, ownership, value. We try to transform that according to informational rules, i.e. the law, and we try to get a desired informational output. So this is what this system does inherently. So you can build a system on top of this, and you don't really need to understand the technology behind it. It's like you send an email to somebody, you're not really thinking about the TCP/IP transmission control protocol that goes across the internet. You know, you press send, other person gets it. And that's what the blockchain will become. It will become just a protocol with which you exchange value in a trusted way with another party.
Can I ask you to pause there?
Sure.
Let me ask you this question. explain to me how blockchain will work in a standard commercial transaction, buying and selling a business.
Okay, let's think about an existing implementation of it, buying and selling a diamond. The problem with diamonds is there's synthetic diamonds that often get inserted into the system from when the diamond gets mined and cut, and it goes to the end person who gets it. Sometimes along the way, a synthetic diamond gets substituted. You also have the problem of blood diamonds, which are sourced from illegal means. So what they've done with the blockchain in the diamond market is they can identify a diamond based on characteristics. If you've ever gotten engaged, you're probably very aware of carat, colour, clarity, cut. There's about 40 characteristics. Now, you can encode and encrypt those characteristics into the blockchain. Then I want to buy that diamond, I buy that diamond, which is identified by that blockchain. I get that, I get the diamond. I can put it into a fairly low-cost machine, and I can verify that the characteristics there are the same that were encrypted into my blockchain. So I can verify using a blockchain that I got the physical product that I paid for.
But I'm buying a business.
Sure.
How does it work if I'm buying a business?
You could have the shares of the business encoded into the blockchain, and then you transfer me your shares in your business, and I transfer you the value that I want to transfer to you.
I guess where I'm coming from is I'm trying to see whether blockchain is going to impact on the way, will impact on lawyers providing services. Is it going to somehow reduce the number of lawyers involved in commercial transactions? It does seem to me that lawyers must have a role in negotiating the commercial terms of the agreement.
Sure.
But I'm having difficulty seeing, and maybe this is not the case, but I'm having difficulty seeing where blockchain actually interposes itself into that transaction. We're not dealing with public companies, we're dealing with private companies, small business.
Yep. So it may or may not. You're still going to need lawyers for that. They might transact that in a computer-based language rather than a natural English ambiguous language, and do the transaction through that. So that if you take a simple example, let's say when we get paid by our client, we pay our barrister. You can actually trigger that into a executable contract, and that happens automatically. We don't have to think about it. We don't have to think about, oh, now we got paid, we need to pay the barrister. You can do a similar thing there with the blockchain. The Australian Stock Exchange is looking into it for transferring share things and things like that. It's good at the commodity level. So if you have a high level of repeatable processes, it's going to be good at that level. If you've got a complex dealing of a commercial contract, that may not be applicable.
It may work in the context of assets that are being transferred within that commercial transaction.
Correct, yeah. You're not going to do away with lawyers entirely, of course. You're still going to need them to code up the smart contracts effectively, or to do things that aren't applicable to blockchain. But there is going to be a level of transaction which is distributed, verifiable, across a decentralized system that are appropriate for this protocol. It's going to be, again, you don't need to think about the protocol itself. You have to think about how you apply it at a higher level.
Understand. Questions? Yes, John. Yes.
Can I ask how the regulatory frameworks of our organisations fit into this? How does money laundering legislation impact on this? How do privacy things impact on it? If you're doing that transaction with Gary, do I have the ability to see that, or is it only...
If you're on the same network, you have those transactions. You may not know it's me and Gary, but you have a copy of that ledger. You can verify that transaction. So when I come, I buy Gary's asset, and then immediately I come and try to buy yours with the same tokens. But those tokens are identifiable. I can't do that.
Gary might not have wanted to know that he sold that asset, or...
Yeah, but you may not know it's him. You don't know that his identity token is actually him.
then how do the authorities know? Are they worried about not knowing?
Oh, they are certainly worried about not knowing. If you, I don't know if you know Silk Road, which was a drug marketplace that was based on Bitcoin, and you had effectively trust, authentication, transfer of value, and identity built into that system, but complete privacy. Nobody knew who was doing the transactions. So yeah, you can move outside the regulatory framework like that, but with the diamond exchange example, you Correct. So you've got identity, proof of ownership, transfer of value automated, you've got trust built into the system, and you've got compliance built into the system as well. So yes, but in terms of goodwill, if I'm using blockchain to buy your shares in your company, I'm just simply valuing them at a higher value than the assets of the company. And so that transaction is relatively easy.